Okay, well, I will start without her because she said that was okay. All right,
Recording in progress.
oh, great. I call to order the February Ways and Means Committee meeting. Roll call, please.
Chairwoman Sims.
Here.
Alderman Gould.
Here.
Alderwoman Tice.
Here.
Alderwoman Harder.
Here.
All members present.
Great. Item 2 on the agenda is approval or amendment of the agenda. Are there any changes, observations to be made? All right, that'll stand as approved by acclamation. Item 3 on the agenda is report of committee chair and alderman. I have no report. Alderman Gould.
No report.
Alderwoman Tice.
No report?
Harder.
No report.
All right, item 4 is city administrator report. We don't have any items on that section. Item 5 is department reports. 5A is the investment report. Who is? Okay, well, we can just go to 5B and come back to him. All right, so we'll revisit 5A and we'll proceed on to 5B, which is the status of the 2023 audit. Got that.
There's a memo enclosed in board docs that sort of outlines where we're at with the status of the 2023 audit, as well as the December financials. We are currently doing the modified accrual process and moving any of the December 2023 revenues and expenditures back to December as they arrive in January and February. So we are sending audit schedules to the auditors. They currently have several schedules, which they have not had in the past. In a timely manner, I believe we are on time and on target. Any immediate questions in regards to that? We were actually in conversation with the auditors today. So on the 15th, there is a conference call scheduled to go over the current capital list and capital assets. So once again, we've done the bank recs, the bank statements, capital assets, payroll's been issued, several schedules that they hadn't had and were sort of noted in the audit for tardiness or delay. They have had those before end of January. Target, and if that changes, I will let everybody know.
My ears would be on schedule.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, we'll go back to 5A, investment report.
Beautiful day, warming up a little bit. So Brad Lukens, as you guys hopefully know. I always like to give you a brief market update. Not a lot has changed. Well, it's been 2 months. But we're still in what's called this inverted yield curve, where short-term rates are a little bit higher than longer term. And we anticipate that probably starts to come down a little bit when the Federal Reserve brings the Fed funds rate down because inflation is in check. So we anticipate lower short-term potentially a continued decline in longer ones as well. Everything's kind of coming down a little bit. But the bright side is we still have the highest rates that we've seen since 2007. And so Michelle and Bola and I have continued to work pretty closely together to, number one, make sure, especially on the general fund side, that we have adequate money maturing almost monthly, and that is in the $400,000 every month. And it goes out consistently all of this year and all of 25. So we just met. There is $5.5 million that matures this year, almost monthly, and then $6.5 million that matures next year. We've got $1.5 million that matures in 2026. Confident that there's a considerable amount of money maturing monthly for any of those unforeseen expenses that may come. You should have a report in front of you. Kelly sent it over. And so those are all of the accounts that we currently manage. And Also, some accounts that are closed, like those project fund accounts. So if you look there at the bottom, all of those since the inception till just a couple days ago have earned a total of $2,807,869. That is earning additional all that stewardship of that money, and then also interest rates are really all that I have for you. I will say in the future, I think we're going to do, since we're in the beginning of a new year, is put some of those on a historical report on the bottom, and then start fresh with 2024 to show you earnings on active accounts at the top.
All great news.
Yeah, remind me, our previous monthly was right around 50,000, right? So,
Right.
so we're now 75,000 because of.
We are. And so it's going to ebb and flow a little bit as interest rates change, as securities are maturing and being reinvested. Yes, the average is this has just been the last 2 months.
Okay. And then is there, if you start to see a trend where interest rates are starting to lower and not as favorable for the investments we have, what is the strategy at that point? Just kind of ride it out, or?
That's kind of what we're in now.
Yeah.
The last 9 weeks or so, longer-term interest rates have been coming down a little bit. If you look on a historical chart, they're still the highest that they've been since '07. They were pretty nice in '07, and they came down drastically, almost very low for the longest time period. So even they can continue to decline, they're still going to be the highest that they've been since that point. But so we're looking a little bit longer term to lock in those rates, even though they're declining, and it looks a little counterintuitive because the short-term rates are more attractive.
Right.
It's just that those short-term rates have to stay propped up because the Federal Reserve has pushed up the federal funds rate. And as soon as they lower that, it's going to immediately drop the Fed funds rate, and the short-term rates should fall also. So if we have securities that we take the bait on buying too much short-term, we're exposing that part of the portfolio to investment risk or interest rate risk. So it's a good question, and if we're able to, this laddered strategy has done very well for you and everyone else since the beginning of time. It just spreads the
I know you don't have a crystal ball, and if you did, you'd be a
the
very
laddered
popular
strategy
person.
helps hedge not having the crystal ball.
Yes, yes.
We don't always hit it out of the park, but we don't ever strike out.
Okay, thank you.
Item 5C on the agenda is financial statements.
December 2023 financial statements won't be available until closer to March. Based upon modified accrual, we still move February expenditures and revenue back. We're cutting that off around the 15th of February unless there's something material, and then if anything material comes through, we'll have the auditors make that adjustment. So hopefully by the March meeting, you'll have December unaudited financials, but we still have to move the accruals and wait for the February revenue to come in. So they're not necessarily tardy, they're just not complete.
Item 6 is the consent agenda. 6A, the only thing on the consent agenda is the approval of the December 2024 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any changes? Item 7, we don't have any old business. Item 8 is new business. 8A is the postage machine.
Getting your steps in.
So the postage machine is coming up for renewal. We internally did a little bit of investigation, and there is a recommendation in the memo here for the replacement of the postage machine. We did go out to at least 2 other vendors, vendor models. Like I said, we did sort of do our due diligence, looked at pricing, looked at extended terms, looked at monthly totals. And the recommendation is actually to switch vendors and go to Marmax, who's actually willing to run it out 63 months and is the cheapest options that were available to us. So it expires as of April 2024. I believe we need to give notice, switch out the machines, and
Finance Director's recommendation to the board for approval?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call, please. Yes.
Alderman Gould,
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice,
yes.
Alderwoman Harder. Motion carries 4-0.
Item 8B on the agenda is the St. Louis Mom Back to School Family Event.
Evening. So last year, we started working with St. Louis Moms as we really kicked off the Brentwood Park dedication. And we actually took out an ad on their Parks and Playground event guide for the year. And it turned out to be a very good mutually beneficial relationship. They've been great. They've done a couple stores on us. They've shared a lot of our stuff, and our reach has extended a lot further in social media based on that partnership. So they do an annual Hanging with the Heroes back to school event. They're wanting to do it in Brentwood Park. They want to use the pavilion, the amphitheater, and then also have the side benefit of having the playground there as well. And so what they asked is see if we'd be interested in doing an in-kind advertising package. So our rental fee for the event would be $650. They offering a sponsorship in that playground guide that we purchased last year, a feature in the e-blast for the event, the spotlight at the top of the event page, and then 2 Instagram stories about 2 of our other events. And one could be the dedication. We were talking to them about Shakespeare in the Park. If we're able to do that, that could be another one. Or any of our summer concert series or our Saturdays in the park, something like that. So they value that advertising package at $1,100. We're talking to Sophie, our marketing person. She thinks it's still a mutually beneficial relationship, and we'd like to move forward with that. Forward with this arrangement.
Okay, I guess adopt the in-kind advertising package for the St. Louis Moms Back to School event is set out. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderwoman Sims,
Yes.
Alderman Gould,
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice,
Yes.
Alderwoman Harder. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Thank you. 8C on the agenda is review of requests for proposals of the compensation study.
So in Board Docs, we uploaded all of the responses. The RFP went out to directly 14 different companies, as well as online to different public places for it to be reviewed. Of the places we sent it out, we did receive 7 proposals back, which was shared with Ways and Means as well as the board for your review. Additionally, we uploaded a synopsis of the addendum questions that we added to the proposal so that we can see those answers, those questions that the board had specifically for our potentially new consultant form. That is also uploaded onto Board Docs. The budget stated for 45,000, I'm sorry, my connection is terrible, 45,000. The ranges are from 35,000 to 70,000. Evergreen did not provide a sample. However, I did reach out to get that sample, so if you want to see that, to include it, I do have that for you. It is not in board docs. In comparison to some of the neighboring cities that have used different sources, McGrath was one that they used. We did not get a response back from McGrath. It could be because of the timing that we need this completed. One of the cities that is utilizing McGrath currently, they're using it as a 5-month project. Ours is about 3 months. So that could be a reason we did not get a response. Evergreen has been a popular source as well as CBiz. In regard to finalist, I did not conduce it down to my choice. I'm under the impression that you would provide us with the top firms that you would like to move on to the interview phase.
Normally, I'm accustomed to getting at least some kind of recommendation, because I
Don't have one for you on this. The specific direction was that staff not do it. So, which is why we sent out the 7 proposals to you all a week ahead of time, so you'd have ample time to review it. However, I believe that the table that Tangela prepared that's in board docs has done a preliminary review of the proposals and whether they are responsive to the questions and to items that we ask that they respond to in the RFP. So an example or a path forward for you all tonight may be to take them one by one and kind of talk through their response to the proposal. And as a reminder, the RFP, you're typically looking for lowest cost response. This is not an RFQ where you're looking specifically at qualifications. And the information that is provided also gives you a good idea of their experience. You know, have they done this for municipalities? Have they done it for municipalities in the region, across the country? Do they have history in helping you work through who your comparators are going to be? I think there's a response here where one person says, or one firm says, we think the maximum number of comparators should be 8. And, you know, we had 13. And just in talking to some of our peer cities, I know the city of Clayton has maybe 18. So, and we can share with you all those lists. I know that Alderman Plufka talked about how you all decide who the comparators are. You know, what is the basis? And these are conversations you're going to need to have with whomever is selected. And to make this even more complicated, is in the administrative content of board docs, I asked Kelly and Tangela to kind of talk through dates. So there will have to be, I know this committee's up to that challenge because you do it every fall with the budget process. There will have to be additional meetings for you all to schedule so that, and I don't expect you to make a decision tonight, but if you do, that's fine. Additional meetings to talk through this, to interview the submittals, the consultants rather, and then to develop the comparators, and then you would turn them loose. We'd go to the board would, you know, authorize, there'd be an ordinance, an agreement, and then they would start meeting with staff and then sending out the surveys. And we've been told 90 days is the max to have this start from today to implementation. If you run longer than 90 days, then you run the risk of the comparators that you have already going to market and doing their own. And we always talk about how do we stay current. So we're really under a tight timeline.
Are we going to be in a position of we have comparators, right? I mean, so.
We do have comparators, but
I'll
if
answer
they
that.
want to recognize
I'll
you.
answer that. I think there's been discussion by some members of the board that they think the comparators should be expanded, particularly for the fire department where there are only 8. We have 14 comparators, but only 8 of them have fire their own fire departments and the others have fire districts. So I think there's discussion about whether we should have, or that came up before. So I think we're
Right.
going to have to discuss who the comparators are. No.
So I think where you are currently is to talk about each of the proposals and then maybe do an elimination process. Who's your top two, who's your top three, and then we bring them in. If you feel you all want to do it, rather than staff, do an interview of them. There are a number of ways to do this.
So I have a suggestion that maybe we eliminate some of these and get them down to a small number. And then, I mean, I would like staff to give us some guidance on this. Clearly, I think there's some feeling that the board wants to be a little bit more involved in this than we have been in the past or in other processes. So I'm happy to step up and do that if that's the expectation for us this year. But I definitely would like some more input from the folks. Like, I can read through these, and it's pretty easy. Like, the one who only wants to do 8 comparators, that's out. And the 2 who are 70,000, like, all things being equal, like, in my mind, like, unless they're going to do something magical that the rest of them aren't, in my mind, those should be out. But then beyond that, I don't know enough about, like, what our comparator cities think about these companies. And I know the board has some issues, but I also, we need whoever we pick to really be able to work with staff and have the confidence of our employees so that whatever they do is met with confidence by our department directors and our all our employees, and that when it comes to implementation that they're helpful, because we don't do that sitting up here. We just show up at meetings. So if we could cut out some of these and then get some direction from staff, I think that could move us forward a little more quickly.
So what I hear is cut out Zala and Gallagher, because they're both 70, and Tangela, feel free to jump in, 70,000 each in terms of the cost. So that leaves the remaining 5, Evergreen, PayPoint HR, JER HR Group, AutoSolve.
It's also
Well, and then the-
suggested as JER only will compare 8 comparators, which
JER Group, okay, so,
possibly is a non-starter if
so then we scratch them out, so
we
you
have an issue,
have
so then we've got 4
4.
left.
Okay.
I mean, IBZ, how crucial is it that they meet with individual employees?
Well, I thought that it's been a little while. I think the last time we had employees and the consultant look at job descriptions was when we did the initial compensation study. So I'm not asking that they rewrite the job descriptions, but just a conversation with an incumbent or groups of employees and their department director to make sure that those job descriptions are still valid, so that when they go out and compare them to other because you're not comparing just the title, you're looking at scope and content, what they do.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought it would be meaningful to include that.
I mean, I would be, if I'm in a group setting, I mean, to what extent would that maybe?
It also gives the employee a feeling of their voice being heard
Yeah, I
when
mean,
they're helping with their job
if-
description too. It gives less.
We have vocal employees when
I
this
mean, to
come
what
to this.
extent, the observation of a thing changes it. If I'm in a group setting, am I gonna, will that quiet the free
Person.
flowing of discourse?
Probably
Like,
not. Probably
If
not.
you're in a group of your peers or colleagues, you're probably more prone to say what you all have complained about in the break room. You're going to say it to the consultant. We require this, whereas this department doesn't. I think they're more vocal. They'll speak up.
Sometimes you get a little more courage if other people are saying things.
Courage in numbers.
So if that being a valuable part of the mix, then are we taking CBIZ off the list? That struck. It won't meet with them.
But they
Or
will,
you-
They will in a
I think
group.
what
You're
they're
all right with
saying
group
is that
settings? Yeah,
we have a
sorry,
vocal group that would probably not hold back even in a group setting, so that's probably not necessary. Meeting individually is probably not as as important, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I don't think that, I mean, we will have, and we can group them together so that, you know, there could be joint discussion with similar type positions, but we have positions where there are single incumbent positions. So how do we gauge that discussion? How do we have that discussion if we don't allow a consultant to meet, or if a consultant says, I won't meet with that person? For instance, we have just one position, HR manager, communications manager. I mean, there are unique positions, there are single incumbent positions. But we can go back to them and ask for clarification. Are you sure this is what this means?
That's more than some of the others because they're local. I think they're in person because they're local, is what I,
They were counting their meetings based on the sample timeline provided in the RFP.
So, and again, I haven't gone through locations of all of these. CBiz, Compensation Consulting, is the only local consultant that's on this list?
They are local. Evergreen is local too, so Evergreen, out of the consensus I received back from other cities, have been utilized more frequently,
Okay.
not so much with our comparators. I did not get a response from our
Sure.
true comparators, but as far as St. Charles County, other counties neighboring, Evergreen has been a popular one, as well as CBiz.
And what about the Evergreen? Didn't they meet requirements on?
They did not provide initially a sample in their proposal. I do have the sample. I reached out to the
Okay.
contact to get it, so I can share that
So
with you.
they do technically meet the requirements now, okay.
Is there any information as to
Based on the information shared amongst our HR groups, one company, University City, was quoted $65,000 for their proposal in 2022. So it's based on the requirements or the request that the city is asking for. For us, we're asking for a very short time frame for something that normally takes 6 months. That could be a contributing factor for the cost being more. It could be the amount of comparators that we're asking them to review, the amount of job descriptions where we have, again, a lot of positions that are just one person. So it's about 63 positions that they have to look at.
could I ask staff a question? So we've eliminated 3. But that leaves 4, and that seems like a lot. Is there somebody that you, like, I mean, is there someone else we should eliminate? Is there somebody else?
Can we recognize Alderman Plufka? I'm sure he has some thoughts.
Oh, sure, yeah, no, if you've got questions, come on down.
Thanks very much for that. David Plufka, 3 Middlesex Drive. I did call at least 1, in some cases 2 and 3 of the referrals on this, and the most interesting one, I talked to Scott. I think his last name is Schaefer, but he's the new city administrator for the city of Frontenac, and he had told me that by the time he started, CBiz had done the work for Frontenac prior to his hiring, but that he has spoken with them in follow-up. And he's been really, really impressed with their responsiveness, things like that. The only weird response I got was on the AutoSolve application. They listed, I believe, a Lisa, I forgot her last name, but she's from the city of Longboat Key, Florida. And when I contacted her, she wrote me back or sent me back an email or a voicemail message in which she said she had not worked with them and doesn't know why her name is on their list. So I found that kind of odd. But that PayPoint I spoke to Debbie from Raytown. She's the HR person in Raytown, Missouri, and she was very complimentary of PayPoint, which is not a local. But I think their bid was 37.5, I want to say. You know, in terms of narrowing it down, I think your approach is exactly right. I mean, I don't want to tell you, I mean, not that you need me to say this is the right way to go, but my sense of it is that is exactly the right way to go, is to make qualitative decisions about getting it down to maybe a 2 or 3, a more workable group, and then from there, you know, do some more digging at, and trying to see, you know, who's going to be the best. It strikes me that part of this is, I mean, actually more than part of this, I really think that one of the biggest things that we could do to improve on this is focus on hiring somebody who is going to be really responsive and willing to revisit data and things like that. It seems to me that because of COVID and because of other pressures, I think that the last 3 years have been some of the hardest years for people in the public sector to figure out what it's going to cost to get somebody to be in public works or to be a police officer or a firefighter but I think the challenge is always there, but I think it's been doubled and quadrupled by the stress put on all the communities by COVID. There's less people that are willing to do these jobs. Communities are still looking very hard to try to compete for good employees. And you know, to Bola's point, I think that I know the RFP contained a certain time frame, and I noticed that CBIZ's time frame, even though it was told to be shorter, was actually a little bit longer. They predicted it to be out to June, whereas I think PayPoint, their timeline suggested April. So probably not giving you that much guidance, but I think the ones you've eliminated are the ones that should have been eliminated for sure. And down to this group, I don't know that I think it's hard to get down below 4 or 3. If that's your inclination, I think that's a good one, but I also think it's a hard thing to try to decide. Not giving you much help, sorry, but
All of them.
I thought, yeah, I mean, it was interesting, and at first I thought I wouldn't get any responses at all, but people were really actually very willing to talk about the good experiences that they had. I mean, and everybody that I physically talked to, was more or less happy. I thought the most enthusiastic, I guess, would have been one that you actually eliminated, and I don't disagree with the elimination, but I heard back from St. Charles City County Library, Lynn, who was very high on JER. She went out of her way to say that she thought they did a really good job. You know, kind of listening for adjectives in the phone call about, you know, is it overall, was it a beneficial thing, or was it, you know, are they really unabashed in their compliment, or are they kind of measured in the way that they talk? I don't know. I think the ones you've eliminated are the right ones to eliminate. And I think CBIZ and I think Evergreen too, just by virtue of being local. I don't know. I mean, I also think PayPoint with its bid itself is one that we should consider too. But anyway.
What did you say about AutoSolve? Is that the one you said?
AutoSolve, yeah. That was the one where they said they had not used them. Or at least not used them recently. So I don't know. It didn't have a date on when they were used. That was the group that, I think that's the group where, if you look at the staff, I think it's a father, a son, and a daughter are 3 of the 4 staff. If I'm remembering this correctly, they're out of Florida, and they seemed very caught up in the whole, and the formulas involved in compensation, plans. Only other thing I would say is that I don't know that we need, a lot of some of these plans dealt with trying to put a value on certain job titles and then putting them on a line, on a bell curve or on a, slope, and saying, okay, we value this job as much, this job more than this job over here, and getting them in the right order based on surveys and things like that. We did a lot of that in 2015, and I'm not sure we need to repeat that. I
No.
think more of,
It's been done. It's just how do we compare to the market?
I think that's exactly right. I think how we compare to the market is the more important thing, and I thought that some of the proposals were a little more, we're just gonna give you everything we do, and we're gonna put it in a 40-page response to the RFP. But I appreciated some of the more tailored responses that seem to be wanting to address the questions that we asked in the RFP directly. Anyway, that's my take. Thank you.
If we think 4 is a good number, then we can schedule, some of them will be by Zoom, and we've started providing you with some of the questions, and you can add to that and just schedule it for the next meeting.
Are you proposing that we would interview these people?
Did, the last time, Jason and I did. If you want us to, we could do the interview and then bring back a recommendation from that, but we need to gauge the level of involvement you will want in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think philosophically, we're a board that probably shouldn't be doing your job of, I mean, and I
would
know
agree
that,
with that, but
I understand
I don't want to
your-
be as vocal as some of my peers would be in a conversation like this. For me, that stress is just not worth it for me. So if you all want to be involved, I'm going to let you all.
Well,
be
that's what I'm
involved.
saying. I mean, I've always appreciated and respected the effort that staff puts into these decisions, and I think, having some recommendations and, hey, here are the ones that we feel are the strongest. Here are a couple of them or 3 of them that we feel are really strong, meet a lot of the concerns or needs of the board, and will meet the needs of the staff. Here's what we find, and have us evaluate that and make a final recommendation. I'm comfortable with that process. I don't feel like I have the background that I want to be, actually interviewing these folks for these roles. So that's my feeling. You all might have a different feeling on it.
I tend to agree. It looks like we've eliminated it. I do defer to your standing on your shoulders and not in place of what you would otherwise ask.
Tangela can contact the 4 and schedule interviews, and then we will put out information with Kelly's assistance to the board, so that if you all have specific questions based on what you've read, we can make sure to ask those questions. And then, so we had suggested maybe a meeting on the 6th and the 7th. So maybe the next meeting, if your schedule allows, might be the 21st to bring back no, okay. So we need to look for another date, Kelly. Unless you all would like to suggest a date
Those were the only dates in February
that are available.
Oh, for this room or for what?
Out of all
that
the
we don't have
29
other
days.
meetings. There was,
Any day.
The 6th, the 7th, and the 21st were the dates that were available in February for you all to meet again,
Other, there are meetings
because
and
there
other
are other
dates.
meetings and there are other things on every other day in that month.
But are they in all those other meetings? The 4.
They're, not all of them are in every other meeting.
So maybe we take a look and we'll send you another couple of dates to consider. Maybe is the 21st the date we should just take out
I
completely?
can't do that, and I
Okay.
can't do the 6th. I could do the
Okay.
7th, but I don't know if you can do these interviews in a week.
No, we can't. So we'll take a look at some more dates and we'll send it out.
I mean, some of these members are in other committees and whatever, so.
Or, I mean, haven't been here the whole hour. I mean, it maybe, you know, like, 2 of us are on Public Works, maybe it could, and that doesn't mean till 6, so maybe it's 5 o'clock before the Public Works meeting, or there's a way to,
Shouldn't be lengthy,
Yeah.
an hour max.
Yeah.
If that's all.
yeah. No, I don't, I agree. I don't think that, I think if you all interview them and bring back that information,
Right.
I think us interviewing these people when we're not HR experts or city administrators, it just isn't our
Yeah,
role.
Ultimately, I think we need to select someone that you all trust and is going to provide you with unbiased, sound advice and data, so that a recommendation for what we do with compensation is put forward that we can trust. So I think in the process of interviewing, you're going to have some, I'm sure, chemistry feeling about, hey, we really feel good about these people, you know. And I think that is important. Again, all things considered, if they all sort of meet the needs of the city, then I'm comfortable with gone through this process to see, and I'm glad that we got 7 responses to be able to choose from, you know. That's good. So I'm comfortable with that recommendation as well.
So we'll bring back the results from the interview, and we'll also send out new dates for your consideration, and then share this with the board as well, so that they can give us questions they would like us to ask. Yes, okay, we can do that.
Thank you.
All right, we're at item 9 on the agenda, which is citizen comment. Do we have anyone in the audience?
No one's online to do that.
All right, well, seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for everyone.